Let's go to the state capitol. On Friday, there was the Black Mass that took place outside, and that was done by a bunch of Satanists. The good news is that it looked like Christians showed up and far outnumbered the Satanists. Susan Humphries, state representative out of Wichita, was there on the ground on Friday. She now joins us on KCMO Talk Radio. Susan, great to have you on the show. Thanks for coming back. And take us through what Friday afternoon was like in Topeka at the state capitol.
Yeah, thank you for having me. We lived in an apartment close by, so I walked over to the grounds that morning, and there was small contingent of the Satanists where the governor had said they could be, which was over on the east steps. And there were hundreds, I will say, of Christians in small groups on the edges up against the fence that the highway patrol had put up, praying, singing, American flags, Christian flags, and there was a large presence of state troopers there and the Capitol Police. And it really it didn't feel foreboding. It felt a lot of activity. And then once I got inside the Capitol, it was pretty peaceful. Again, lots of presence of law enforcement and small groups of people around. They were still doing tours of the Capitol. That was probably around 10 in the morning, and I think the Black Mass was supposed to start at 11.
So then the Black Mass itself, what happened? Where did that all transpire, and what did it end up looking like?
Yeah, I don't think it really happened. I don't think there was any sort of ritual that went on. When I was watching from above that section of the steps, it was more just folks milling around, kind of actually Satanists walking over and observing what the Christians were doing. There was a really formal ceremony that a group of Catholics were participating in on the south side of the Capitol, and they walked over and looked, and I didn't see any organized ritual until a little bit later when the main guy did go into the Capitol, and as far as I could tell, he was alone. He was on the first floor. I was up above, and he had a book that he was holding up and chanting a little bit, and you probably saw the video, but a young man tried to grab the book and a couple different times, and he smacked him in the jaw a couple of times, and the Capitol Police or state troopers tackled him and let him out. And that was the main altercation that I heard. I was up above, so I heard it but didn't see it.
Yeah, that would be the satanic leader who was there, Michael Stewart. I saw that he got arrested on Friday as well. Mm-hmm. So what were the numbers like when you talk about the Satanists who actually showed up for this thing that had gotten, I guess, some hype leading up to last Friday, but certainly didn't seem like they achieved their goal?
No. When I looked out and I was watching, and then I was sitting on a bench in front of the Capitol, I thought there were maybe 30 Satanists in that area, and there were, I will say, hundreds of Christians, and that was the most striking thing. It was all groups. It was the traditional Catholics. It was women, older women in smaller prayer groups. It was the more bold folks that came from churches. Probably they were in some type of recovery and were just happy to be able to praise Jesus during all of this time. I mean, it was such an outpouring of unity among the Christians. It was amazing.
That is great. Susan Humphries, state representative out of Wichita, was there to see this all unfold firsthand, joining us on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Do you know, Susan, what the intended goal was of these Satanists outside of getting some, I guess, media attention? Was there any other clear goal that they had in terms of why they were in Topeka and at the state capitol on Friday?
I think it was a couple things. One, I do think it was a publicity stunt in a way. And then it was a direct attack on the Catholics. There was a Catholic mass going on across the street, but because they called it a black mass, it was a direct attack on Catholics, and the advocacy that the Catholic Church is participating in the Capitol, as far as, a very culture of life, and I think it was an attack on that. Because of that, it was an attack on all Christians, not just Catholics, but they were targeted, I would say.
Okay. Now, Governor Kelly did temporarily ban protests inside just for Friday, and this came in the wake of this group scheduling its indoor ceremony for Friday. Do you think the governor handled this appropriately in the wake of what happened and transpired?
I think there was a little bit of a misstep in that during COVID, we really kind of let up on some of the regulations that you had to have a sponsor to be inside the Capitol. And so they were able to reserve a space on the rotunda first floor at the beginning because they didn't need a sponsor. I don't think anyone would have sponsored them. And the governor, along with the leadership of the House and the Senate, did move the event outside, which I think was great. And I think now there will be some more stringent regulations and things as far as who gets to get a permit to come into the Capitol. They're going to have a sponsor. And so, it kind of fell into place the way it did. I think it could have been handled a little bit differently, but as it turned out, it was okay.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then really anybody can be outside of the state capitol, but this is referring to inside of the state capitol, right?
Yes, and I don't know if you need a permit to be on the grounds if it's a formalized event. And the governor said no rituals on the property, and I think that makes a lot of sense too.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have to see how that plays out as far as, do we need that in regulations or statute, or how's that going to go from here on out? But we're aware now, and we'll take action, I'm sure.
All right. Well, we will see how it plays out. I guess this guy, this leader of this Satanist group, was arrested but released on Friday. So we'll see what his future holds. Was he a Kansas resident, by the way? Do you know that?
As far as I know, yes. He
Okay.
calls himself the Kansas something or another. And he showed up before. He showed up at our March for Life in January when we had hundreds of people outside on the steps, and he was walking around with his signs and obscenities, yelling his obscenities. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I like that name for him. The Kansas something or another. That sounds like a very appropriate name for him. I like that. Well done. Susan Humphries out of Wichita. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate the perspective and the time on KCMO.
Thank you, Pete, for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Well done by Susan Humphries out of Wichita.